Welcome to today's recording on the Rachel Varga podcast. We have a special guest all the way from Australia joining us today. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about how can we live with more confidence? Obviously, we're going to talk about skin in this one and create our ultimate life through manifesting. Who doesn't want to create their ultimate life? And one of the things that I really struggle with is actually visualization and manifesting. And sometimes we can just live our life through kind of autopilot or cruise control, but we have a little bit more power over the type of life we want to live than we may realize. So this is going to be a really fun episode. Drop your questions in the comment section. If you're catching the replay, do hashtag replay on the @Rachel Varga official Facebook page and YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe to the Rachel Varga official podcast. Share this episode with a friend that you think could really benefit from building and strengthening their confidence and tips for manifesting. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so that you know when I go live next. I'm going to tell you a little bit about today's guest. We have Huti joining us today, and she's all the way from Australia. I've known Huti for about a year now, and Huti's actually taken my skincare programs, which is really fun, and she helps people figure out how to basically cultivate their own ideal life, look at blocks that they may have, and also dive into emotions. And this can be really important when we start to show up a little bit more online. In the online virtual space, we have to, present our most vibrant version. We can't just show up on screen here looking a little dull and flat and things like that. And just in the way that we live our lives, talking about manifesting and cultivating that ultimate life is what Huti does. So welcome, Huti. It's great to have you back on the show. This is the second time you're here. And how are you today?
I'm great. Feels so great. This is going to be an amazing chat. And I'm just really excited to be here with you again.
Again, yeah. And why don't we just talk about what some of the struggles are that your clients are bringing up, right? When they work with you one-on-one, you're helping women kind of from all over the world, figuring out how they can show up and create the business and the life that they want. But first of all, why don't we just kind of dive right into how can we start to manifest your dream life? Let's just start there for everybody tuning in.
Well, first of all, you've got to know where you're actually wanting to go, right? Like you've got to be super, super clear on what is it that you actually want to be experiencing and what do you want to be feeling more importantly. Because it's not the things that we have in our life or that we want, it's actually how they are going to make us feel. We want the feeling, the emotion. Getting super clear on what that is, what that looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, having that crystal clear clarity. Otherwise, you don't know where you're actually heading. You're kind of wanting it to get better, but I find a lot of people just aren't clear on what they actually want.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to ask me, what do I want? It's like, well, in what aspect, right? So why don't we just do some pretend laser coaching with
Mm-hmm.
myself? How does this
Yeah.
whole manifesting thing work?
So, what it really is the truth is, we all manifest all of the time. You are manifesting right now. I am manifesting. Every single person watching this live or this recording is manifesting. And it all begins with the emotions that we currently feel. Right? Have you ever had those days where you wake up in the morning and maybe you've gotten up the wrong side of bed and you're like, oh my gosh, I just feel really crappy. And all of a sudden, all of these things start happening in your day that make you feel like that, right? You're actually, what you're feeling internally is showing up in your external. So you're actually manifesting that through your emotions. And if you can change up the emotions and begin to feel a higher quality, a higher vibrating emotion like gratitude, like love, all of a sudden, those days where everything is in flow and everything is working in favor and for you. So it actually, you're already doing it. It's just getting a bit clearer on what you want to be feeling and what that looks like for you. So if we're going to do some laser coaching with you, Rachel, what is it that you want to be feeling in say a couple of years' time?
I want to feel peace and I want to feel joy from my family and safety and security and all of that and hope for the future. Those are like the feelings and the words. Like manifesting is a total weak spot for me, and I'm not just saying that, but I really have like difficulties. I have kind of like a block with manifesting.
But do you think it has to look like, what is manifesting actually to you? Because maybe some people in the audience feel the same way. Like if you're
Oh,
really honest,
totally.
like, yeah.
Yeah, I've spoken with a lot of people. They're like, how do you do this whole manifesting thing? And the one time in my life where I really did spend a lot of time manifesting, and it actually was very successful, the outcome for me was I was actually listening to this really great At Infinite Waters soundtrack here on YouTube. And it was the track 432 Hertz by At Infinite Waters or Ralph Smart. And I would just play that in bed. I'd close my eyes and I would just manifest how I wanted this to happen. So when I have taken the time to actually do that, it worked out in just the most beautiful, magical way. It was incredible. That's like the most poignant time in my life where I have manifested.
And so when you were doing that, when you're in bed and you're listening to that sound, what emotions were you feeling?
Excitement, playfulness. I was feeling really happy. I was feeling really adventurous. Those types of things popped up.
Yeah. And I would imagine that whenever you thought about whatever you were trying to call in, or you were actually calling in, those were the emotions that would come up. Because if we want to manifest and we're sitting in a place of fear or doubt or worry or concern, that blocks it. It's like this thing in between what we actually want and what we're currently feeling. So it's those all of those emotions you're talking about, actually embodying them now before the event happens. So because that is where you're actually going to see your external environment change and shift and your focus, and everything just gets finely attuned into what you're going to call in. So it's not like blowing candles on a birthday cake and crossing your fingers going, oh, I want it to happen. It's actually feeling those emotions really intentionally and trusting that it's going to happen before it even has.
Yeah, I feel you. We just had a really interesting comment come in. The commenter said, "I feel like when I was a kid, I feel like it was a little easier." I can relate to this, Taylor, because a couple of years ago, this is when I was able to do this manifesting event. Now it's like I feel like I'm ADD, super distracted. She says, if that makes sense. Of course, yeah, it made complete sense to me. She feels like her imagination isn't really as good as an adult as it was for her as a child. And she's thinking maybe it's because of energetic assaults, other people, world stuff. I mean, I totally feel that. What's your take on that, Huti?
Totally. If you think about when you're a kid, your heart is so more open, right? It's all about heart and emotions, is what I believe. And when we're children, we can tap into like that. It's like there's just this automatic on. We tap into it and we don't block. When you're a child, you don't block any of your emotions, right? If we cry, we cry. If we want to laugh, we laugh. If we want to go and have fun doing something, we do it, and we embody all of the emotions and we're not blocking them. Whereas as adults and things going on in the world right now, you're absolutely right. Things come in and they get into our head space, and that can block that channel from our head, from our brain, from our mind to our heart space energetically. And when that's there and we're here, we don't have that. It's like that the line's been blocked, and where we manifest from really is from our heart space. So I believe that with children, I can see it in my children as well, they are so in their heart a lot of the time. They don't even have to try. But as we get older and we have different experiences and we get these automatic programs running in the background, we're used to, and they've served us so well, right? Like, how much has your logical mind served you in your life? So it's our automatic go. But it served us, blocks the heart sometimes as well. So it's finding a way to actually open up that channel and allow it to flow. And for anyone that's having trouble with manifesting, I'd be looking at the heart space and how you can open it more, because I'm sure, Rachel, you'd agree that when you're in your heart space, you feel all of the emotions that you're wanting to call in, right? And when we look to things in the world at the moment, there's a lot of reasons and excuses for that channel to get blocked if we allow it to.
Our heart is a highly electromagnetically charged organ. And I've actually heard people say that, people like Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, talking about how, the heart brain coherence can be optimized through, if you check out the Heart Math Institute, they do a ton of work on this. But it actually is like the electromagnetic powerhouse in our body. But it's crazy how this other organ that, yes, has a lot of, neurons firing and other chemicals happening could potentially kind of override what we're feeling in our heart space just through kind of like autopilot programs that we pick up as we age. And one of the things that the commenter said here, energetic assaults, other people, world things actually getting in the way. And I just really want to encourage all of you right now, if you check out I've referenced this a couple times now on the show, but the Schumann Resonance app, that can give you insight as to what the Schumann resonance energy on the planet's doing. And I believe it was a WHO purported that there is a percentage of the population that is highly sensitive to electromagnetics, and it really interferes with their physiological body systems, just as we're not kind of like a cookie cutter one size fits all type of organism, right? We're all unique in our biological makeup, our DNA, our epigenetics, how our DNA plays out in the world. That's what epigenetics is, based on environmental things we may be exposed to, right? So I think that was a really beautiful comment that came through. So now might actually be a really good time to really bolster up your protection, to really bolster up your body, mind, spirit, energy practices, because we are going through a pretty huge evolutionary time here on the planet. My good friend Casper Schultz actually just shared a quote from a recent interview with him, talking about how we should be getting, not to shit all over you guys, but it could be good for us to get a little bit more into that childlike, playful, explorative type space. And how do we get there? I mean, you have kids, but I don't have kids, right? To look at that, what would be some tips to get into more of like that playful, childlike state?
What I love to say to anyone that wants to do anything in their life where they feel like there's a bit of something holding them back is, what did you do when you were a kid? What did you love to do? Like, I personally, I love gymnastics. I love to be on the grass. I love being on the trampoline. So I do that with my children. But like, not everybody like to do that. Some other people would like to do something else. So I go back to what you most already, like what you enjoyed when you were a child, and tap into that. Even listen to the same. There's been lots of research and study on like nostalgia, and think back to a time in your childhood when you were really happy and things in your life were really going in a way that you just have such fond memories of. Think about the music that was then, like what songs were out, what bands were out. Listen to that music and even create an environment around you to take you back to that place, because your body actually will remember so many things and your ability is actually increased. I can't remember the study I heard about it. Yeah, I won't even talk about it because I can't reference it, but it's incredible what that nostalgia does for you in the moment, and then what you can recall. Like for me, I love to do gymnastics, and I go out on the trampoline and I'll do things, and my adult mind will go, oh, you can't do it, and I'll just want to do a flip on the trampoline or something, and my body just remembers it, because your body's memory is incredible. So yeah, just, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. What worked for you before going to work again, and just come with curiosity. Be kind to yourself and be really curious. What is it actually that you're curious about right now in your life? What's something that really wondering more about, and find that wonder, experience it, because it's very expansive, and your mind just goes like this, and you're open, right? Because a lot of us can closed off at the moment. The way that the world is, and picking sides and division and all of that, I think the more open and expanded we can be, the more that's just a reflection of that space as well. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, could I share something? I'm such a huge fan of heart math, and I spoke about this recently, and I don't know if you heard about this study that they did with some people about intuition. Have you heard about that? That's it. So it's on their website, Heart Math. And they wanted to find out about where intuition actually comes from. So they took a group of people and they hooked up electrodes to different parts of the body, and they had them on their heart, on their brain, and on their gut. Now, a lot of us will say intuition's in your gut, right? And I know for me, that's where I experience it. If something happens, I'll find my gut churning, or I'll feel something, you'll just have to knowing. So what they did is they had these pictures come up on the computer screen for these people watching the computer, randomly generated pictures. And it either created an extreme emotional response or a calm response from their body. So they had electrodes everywhere. And what they found was their heart and their brain reacted faster than their gut, right? So that's what happened first. But the most interesting thing is that their heart responded over 4 seconds before the computer randomly picked the images. That's intuition, right? So it goes from your heart to your brain, gut, and the heart knew before the computer knew. It's all on their website. You look it up. It was fascinating when I heard about it, when I read about it, and I was like, when you know, you just know. But when your mind's blocking, it'll block your intuition as well, which is as much of an ability manifesting is. We could tap into all of this if our hearts are open. So I just wanted to share that because I just love heart methods too.
That's crazy. And if we think about things like, oh, we just got a thumbs up for that. Yeah, somebody knows what's up. If you think about, say, for example, the observer effect, like when you're looking at particles, say with the Large Hadron Collider, they did some work recently with the observer effect, and I just think that this is really more kind of quantum than we may realize. This whole manifesting thing, and yeah, my ears are actually just kind of ringing a little bit here. So can you speak to what I'm hearing a lot of my friends online talking about, this whole like quantum mindset, like the quantum financial stuff that's happening in the world? Do you have much insight into that?
The financial stuff, not so much, but quantum, absolutely. And what quantum is all about, and I take my cues from Joe Dispenza and many other great people that I've learnt from and learnt with, quantum is not about what our past is telling us that we can do, right? If we go from look at what we've done in the past, which gives us a measure of who we are as a person now, what we can do next in our life, we're constantly using our past to tell us what we can do. Quantum isn't about that. Quantum is about the here and now, the very present moment. Everyone that's watching this live, this recording, whenever you're watching it, this is all that exists, right? That's all we know that is actually here. From this place, this is where you create what is going to happen in the future, nothing to do with the past. And that's where I began this talk around emotions, and the emotions that you feel in the present moment. Put out, every emotion is a vibrational frequency, right? You can look it up online. There's tables out there, and the energy, the emotion that you're feeling is energy in motion, and it's putting the energy out into your energetic field. There's so much research and science behind this, and you can feel it. You can feel each other's energy. Even through Zoom calls, we can feel energy, right? And when someone's in a low vibrational state, when they're worried or depressed, you can feel that their energetic field has shrunk and when it's expanded. So that's why I say for the emotions we feel in the moment really does have a very real impact on our external environment. And that is where quantum comes in, because what you feel is what ends up being your reality. So if we don't like what we're seeing in our reality, we don't need to go out and do. We go internally and do the work in here, do shadow work, someone who can hold you accountable. Surround yourself with people that are going to support you, hold you to the standard that you want to be showing up in, and just be there. I think support's massive for this. But quantum, there's no timelines. Like there's no time. Time does not exist. It's just now, and we're putting out there to call in what you're wanting to call into your life, and trusting, like having ultimate trust in the whole process. Because when you go from present to what you're going to create, you're not thinking about failures you've done. Even what you have done to prove what you can, it's got nothing to do with it. It's pure energy work, like saying down to those little particles. Like that's what it is. And it sounds so simple. And I've been manifesting. I mean, we all have been manifesting for all of our lives, but I've been doing it, knowing I've been doing it since I was a child, because I saw on some soap opera, an Australian soap opera, they had someone on there did it. And I thought, wow, imagine if it's true. Imagine if I could just picture in my mind what I want to happen and it actually happened. And I started doing it and it worked. Like, it genuinely worked. And now I know the reasons why. It's because I got so invested in that feeling that it came up. And it's like magic, but we've got to also bring in the other part to it, right? You think about it, you feel it, all of a sudden your focus is different. You're not focusing on what you can't do. You're focusing on opportunities that are coming up. I'm going to say yes to this instead of saying no. You know, everything shifts when inside shifts. And I'll be completely honest with you. I have times regularly on the daily where I fall out of my heart space and up here switches on, particularly with what's going on in the world. There's just so many excuses to why I'm up here instead of being down here. But the most important thing is that you have the ability to tap back in, have some practices, meditation, go out in nature, like you talk about, go off grid, do everything that you can to support your heart showing up, expanding, and reduce anything that limits that. That is where you're really going to see what you're actually capable of manifesting and creating in your life.
And I would love for you to share what it's like to manifest something like beauty.
Okay, sure. So I had this belief that I was really ugly, right? I really did, genuinely felt it since I was a child. And I had quite severe acne as a teenager. And I honestly believe that I manifested it. Yes, it showed up in my skin, but I do believe I manifested it. Didn't matter how many times someone told me I looked beautiful. It didn't matter because I didn't feel it internally. And over the past, I'd say 14, 15 months, I've been on social media and I've been recording myself and actually seeing myself, right? Because I used to avoid mirrors. I would always wear a full face of makeup because I thought I wasn't good enough without it. Because I had this story in my mind, in my head, that said that I was ugly, that I was attractive. But then I got to see evidence to the contrary while I was doing the internal work, right? Doing the internal work, finding out, limiting belief, not feeling good enough. So much growth in the last year. But I also got to see physical evidence in my recordings. And I got to see what I looked like, what I sounded like, how I came across. And it wasn't about other people's feedback at all. Like I said, it didn't matter before. But now I can actually see beauty in myself, which is amazing for me to say because for the majority of my life, I simply didn't feel that way. And I actually see in photos of myself now compared to 5 years ago, I look like a different person. Like I almost look like I've had work done, which I haven't. And it's because I did the work in here and just it shows that. And people tell me all the time, you look so beautiful. And I could, first of all, feel the compliment now, whereas before I was blocking it. But I agree with them. I'm like, wow, yeah, I feel that. And it feels so good. And I see beauty as well because I just feel so much more open.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. The whole thing about manifesting beauty, cultivating radiance. I really don't hear anybody else talking about it. And one of the ways that I helped to switch my mindset towards more beauty and radiance was to actually look for it around me. So, say, for example, I was out on a walk, I would notice this beautiful pile of rocks and they're arranged in such a way. And then you get up a little bit closer, and then there's these adorable little like magical looking plants and succulents kind of like wedged in, creating life of their own where you might not think it was possible. Or, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful wild rose. And then you smell it. It's like when you look at the beauty around you, you will kind of more easily embody that. That's really easy for me to manifest. I feel like I'm quite tuned into that. That's why I love sharing all of this stuff. But manifesting and cultivating radiance really does come from body, mind, spirit, energy, sort of like organization and optimization and all of that. It's not so much going to be a balance. This JJ Virgin said this really quite eloquently. We need to get away from the term of body, mind, spirit, energy balance, but more kind of like homeostasis or rhythms. Sometimes we'll be able to focus more on our physical attributes or our intellectual attributes or our emotional attributes or our intuitive attributes. So what I use to see where I am in my rhythms is actually the Biorhythm 365 app. It's a free one. So I do this with my girlfriend all the time. She's like, Rachel, what are my biorhythms today? What's the Schumann resonance today? And it's funny when I look at it as well before I start my day and say my physical is through the roof. It's 100. That's the day I'm going to work out. If it's really low, I'm going to make sure that I'm recovering. And also that intuitive biorhythm metric is really interesting as well. And you guys have heard me talk about this a couple of times now. It's just kind of like interesting food for thought. But I have seen women in their 60s that have never done anything, right? But they have lived the life that I kind of talk about, that my most radiant clients embody, which is actually really what I share in my ebook, Unlocking Your Vitality, that you can get at rachelvarga.ca. It's really finding ways to create homeostasis and support of your body, mind, spirit, and energy. That's really how the radiance is going to come. But first, with that mindset of looking at beauty around you is going to be really key. And you mentioned something really important also. Why is it important to experience emotions? And you did actually say one of my favorite words. You said shadow work. This was something that for the longest time I had some resistance to. I didn't quite get it. I thought that shadow work was like focusing on all like the really bad stuff. But everyone has a shadow side to them. And it's not really something that you need to label as good or bad. But I'd love for you to answer this question. Why is it important to experience our emotions? And I will just put a quick little anecdote in here. Is I watched something that really kind of tugged on my heartstrings, and then boom, it was like this next IG reel that was something else. It was like, oh, I really wanted to kind of like stay in that emotion. So we have to be really careful with like this, like boom, 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 how all of this information all of the time is coming into our minds, but to really hold space for certain emotions. What are some of your tips here for experiencing emotions and staying in that emotion state?
Yeah, this is super important. So, with emotions, a lot of the time what happens is we resist them, right? Particularly low vibration emotions, fear, worry, anxiety, shame, guilt. And what is happening is actually when we resist them, we hold them in our body for longer, right? Because emotion is something that we feel, that's why they're called feelings. And when something like happens, a lot of people will only go to a certain level of the emotion, right? Some people will get frustrated a lot. Some people will get angry a lot. Some people will get anxious a lot. And that's just the surface level emotion. And if it's something that's coming up in its pattern, what's actually happening is we can get to that place we don't like it. So we want to avoid it. So we'll go and do something to distract us away from that feeling. Now, when you do this with intention, and I'm not talking about people that are depressed and they're not actually aware of what's going on emotionally, I'm talking about doing it with intention and awareness. So when you have an emotion that comes up, notice when you're resisting it, what your internal dialogue is. What is your go-to that you do? Is it scrolling? For me, what I would do is I would go and help people, which sounds great, right? But I was avoiding my emotions because when I support people, it made me feel good. So I would get a dopamine release, and that sounds great, but I was really avoiding emotions that made me feel like I wasn't good enough, fear and sadness. So noticing the emotion, labeling it, giving it a name, and noticing if you're resisting it or not, right? If you can get to a place where you actually experience it, create a space for yourself where you're not going to be disturbed. Maybe supermarket aisle is not the ideal place to do this work. Actually noticing what it feels like in your body, giving it a name without judgment, just experiencing it. What does it feel like? Something's coming up for me at the moment. Excuse me. And when you're feeling emotion, have a level of curiosity there, right? If it's anger, If you feel in your body, can you release it in some way? Physically release it. Maybe I've hit pillows to get it out of my body and release it. Or I know at events that you go to, you scream your head off and it feels so good just to have that release, right? Because as we avoid, we push down and we're just holding it in our body and it creates tension and ailments and all sorts of things. So are you resisting? What's the emotion? And simply feel it and hold yourself in that space. They're coming from a shadow, from a part of you that is a very real part of you that wants to be seen, heard, and felt, right? And when you don't allow space for these parts of you, they're going to show up. And they're going to show up at times you don't want them to, right? And then you're going to do things that you're going to be embarrassed about. And then you judge yourself in that. So creating space, reduce the resistance, and just experience it in whatever feels good to you in the moment. And know that it's okay. And what's underneath that emotion, be curious about it. And just simply hold yourself like you would a child was feeling that emotion. If you reject other people's emotions in your life, if someone gets angry or sad and you want to push them away, it's merely a reflection of what you're doing to yourself internally. And when we come from our heart space, we can actually experience an emotion with intention and awareness, like I said, so we don't let it run our lives, because they're running our lives anyway, right? We're going to experience pain long-term anyway if you don't do this work. So this is like condensing it into a time space that you've chosen to allow for it to flow through you. And then just let it dissipate. Like it'll go on its own if you create space for it. And then there's this sense of release and relief once it's left your body. And then you've got space for more emotions to come into your body as well.
That's so beautiful. I could listen to you talk for hours. I love it when the throat chakra comes up and then you have to cough and clear it. I've done that with I've noticed that with singing, and it's really interesting when you're speaking and then you kind of feel different sensations in your body, like your throat kind of get a little tight, maybe your ears start ringing. People have all sorts of different reactions to things when they come into their awareness. And pay attention to that stuff, because all of us have unique skills and abilities and attributes that can be good to play into. So Huti, what does confidence mean to you? What does it look like? What do you see it in your most successful clients? And how can we boost our confidence today?
Well, confidence comes from competence, right? So when you've done something enough, you know you can. But where it begins is a lack of confidence, right? Think about anything you feel really, really confident. Like me talking to you, I feel really confident talking to you. This is great. I'm having a lot of fun. 15 months ago to do this, my heart was racing. I was not confident. I was lacking confidence, but I had courage. And courage has the vibrational frequency that you need to get up to those higher level emotions. Anything below courage is going to pull you down, but courage is the place that you want to get to, because that's where you have belief in yourself that you haven't done it before, but you're going to give it a go anyway, and you're going to learn, right? So I think confidence really begins with having courage and just giving things a go and trusting that whatever happens is supposed to happen. Going back to manifesting, right? If we want a certain result in our life, you've got a goal you want to obtain or experience, knowing it's going to happen doesn't mean the next thing you do is going to call into your life. Knowing it's going to happen is trusting, here again, trusting whatever is going to happen is going to continue to get you there eventually. Because maybe what you need right now isn't the result you want. Maybe what you need is a few lessons along the way before you can actually achieve it. Trust and courage are huge factors, and they're so simple, right? To say the word trust and courage, everyone will go, oh yeah, okay, I get it. But do we get it? Do we feel it? And are we noticing when we're being courageous? Because a lot of us will be courageous all the time, but we don't give ourselves props for it, right? We don't. We just go, oh yeah, I did it, no big deal, and go and do the next thing. So it's not only being aware of the emotions we don't want to feel, it's actually being aware of the emotions that we do want to feel, because sometimes what happens is while we're resisting the lower level emotions, we're actually resisting the higher level emotions as well. Because sometimes we want to be in that lower vibrational state because it's safe and we know it. So there's resistance all over the place. And when we can pull that away and get in our heart space, for me, I know anyone that I work with, if they get into their heart space, there's no trying to be confident. You just are. Be a level of fear, or like there's not fear in that space. That's not correct. You can still have different emotional experiences, but when you can get into your heart, you know yourself, Rachel, like when have you been completely in your heart space and lacked confidence?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, when you said that, one of the times I'm really mostly in my heart space and I'm feeling really confident, I'm courageous. I have my Gibson Les Paul classic. I'm busting out a couple of licks, writing some new songs. That's actually when I feel really confident. Or when I'm in the 4x and I'm about to go up this new trail and you're like, oh my gosh, should I be doing this? And then you get past it. And what's interesting for me is what seems to build confidence for me are actually very masculine type qualities. And I've noticed this in myself growing up. And if there's any parents living or listening here and they have young daughters, maybe encourage your daughters to try things that are out of the norm of like the typical girly things to do, like playing with dolls, maybe give them a little like lawnmower motor to start to fiddle around and tinker with and take apart and put back together. And it will help with that neuroplasticity as well. So I did a lot of that growing up, music. And so that's really helped to shape the confident woman that I am now, is focusing a little bit more into those very masculine qualities. And we have to be careful with this, that we don't go overboard with the masculine and negate the very powerful feminine confident qualities as well. So I'd love for you to expand on that and give us tips for how to kind of like cultivate confidence with both the masculine and the feminine kind of like divine attributes.
Absolutely. So, first of all, it's important to know which energy is your dominant energy, because we all have a dominant one and it has nothing to do with your sex. So, first of all, masculine, when they are in their natural energy, they are going to want to protect and provide and be in control, but it's very natural for them. And they do it in a way where whoever's around them feels that and they're comforted by it. Now, feminine energy is where really nurturing and connected and flow, and that's really where intuition lies. And we are a combination of both of these. But whatever your dominant energy is, and what I find particularly with business owners is that women that the a lot of the people that I work with are feminine dominant energy, but the masculine has come in and it's gone a little bit too far. And so when a natural feminine energy that's dominant, when we're into our masculine, we'll feel like we're in control. We'll feel like we're biting, and you know, can give us kind of a sense of confidence, but it doesn't feel natural to us, and it doesn't feel natural to the people that are around us either. And both of them are really important. But what I find a lot of the work that I do with my clients is actually helping them tap back into their feminine energy more, because we can forget. It could be society, it could be just selves thinking that the masculine quality is what gets results. And for a lot of us, that actually has been the case for us, right? But when you can tap into your feminine, when you are like feminine energy is your dominant energy, it's so much powerful. You have so much influence, your intuition flows away, and everything just kind of goes the way it just feels good for you. But if you are a masculine dominant, it's totally fine too. Doesn't mean you don't experience intuition. We can tap into both, but knowing where your energy is, when one's depleted or not, very real signs in your life. Like, I love Chinese medicine. I work with a Chinese medicine doctor, and she does acupuncture on me and have Chinese herbs. Where feminine energy has been depleted, what's that?
This is my tuning fork that I got from my
Oh, wow.
TCM. So
Wow.
it's tuned to 128C, and I'll just ring it for everybody. It might be a little bit loud through my microphone here, so you just hit it on your palm. I love this tool, and you can actually then just put it on different areas of your body. So say, for example, your heart. You can actually put it on different, like the base of your skull. I really like it there. Or if I did this actually once when I was doing a really long 4-hour summit when lockdown first started to happen. And I really wanted to give families tools to create a happy and healthy household, which of course then got like shadow blocked and all this craziness. But the way that I kept myself alert was I would hit it and then I would just find like my hip bone. And I found that it was very energizing. It kind of just moved energy around because I was sitting so much. So if you're kind of at a desk a lot, maybe just grab yourself a little tuning fork or Tibetan bowl or something like that and just get some movement with sound or energy or vibrations. That's just something
That
that
is
came to
super
mind.
cool. They're super cool. I'm definitely getting one. One thing I want to put into here that I think is really important when it comes to feminine and masculine energy is often clients will say to me, how do I get into my feminine? And I'm like, I don't have a list that I give people because it's very individual. For some people, get your feminines putting on a nice floral dress and letting your hair out. And other people, it's, you know, going walking in nature. Like it's so different for everyone. It doesn't have to look like anything. It's I would say for anyone who wants to tap into their feminine, get curious. Try out some things, see if nature's a great one because I think it benefits everybody. It resets us, doesn't it? What are some of the things you do, Rachel, for like to get into your feminine and mass? Like, what is it that you do specifically? Do you feel like that's something that you're quite balanced in? I don't mean balanced like 50-50. I mean being able to tap to each one as you need.
Yeah, honestly, I find what brings me kind of like the most excitement in my life is found in my more masculine qualities, like, say, for example, kickboxing and jujitsu, which I'm really missing right now. So then I have to find it in other things. It's like challenging myself to do the cold water plunge. It's like, how tough can I be today? Right. And but then the benefit to that is I get the skin inflammation improvement and my acne clears up, right? My hair, skin, and nails are like tough as nails. And it's funny. It's an interesting balance when I do these very masculine things. They have a beautiful positive impact on my stress levels, my ability to get grounded again, so that I can kind of like show up here and talk about some quote unquote pretty feminine stuff, right? Skincare, rejuvenation, looking good, presenting your most vibrant quality forward, which yes, I feel is kind of like more flowy and a little bit more feminine as well. So I almost feel like because what I talk about beauty and radiance is so ultra feminine, I really have to balance that with some pretty serious masculine activities. And it's really interesting putting that together. And it's going to be so different for everybody. And sometimes I'm showing up like this and I'm kind of in that go, go, go state, but I'm really careful to clear my schedule when needed so that if I really need to be in that recovery, that kind of rest and digest parasympathetic mode, or throw on some meditations, I'm able to take those cues to get out of that very masculine go, go, go to more of that feminine recharge. And I feel like a lot of mothers and fathers, working professionals, entrepreneurs, have a really hard time knowing when to cut back and really kind of retreat and go within and create more of like this quieter space with less stimulation. I feel like I'm pretty good at figuring out when I need to do that, playing music. One of the things I'd love to be able to do a little bit more is dance, right? Like we can't dance right now. I mean, aside from in our house having our own dance party, but how do you like to balance the different qualities in your life as a mom and entrepreneur?
Sometimes being in my feminine is getting dressed and wearing nice flowy clothes, putting on some pink eyeshadow, and other times it's wearing my active wear with my hair in a bun and playing with my kids, or just being really loving and nurturing to them, going for walks in nature, having really heartfelt conversations with people, um, supporting other people, even down to like what I eat. For me, I know to balance out when I'm depleted in my feminine, bone broth, orange root vegetables. If I need it, I'll have a bit more red meat as well. So, oils, candles, Epsom salt baths, float tanks, meditation, having my oracle cards, crystals, anything that's going to make me kind of feel, for me, it's connection, right? I was thinking about in my meditation yesterday, I was lacking gratitude yesterday morning, right? I got up yesterday morning and I just had this kind of feeling like I was a bit annoyed and frustrated. And when I was in my meditation, when I did my gratitude practice, everything I was grateful for, the common theme was connection. So anything that makes me feel connected pulls me into my feminine. And it can look like a variety of things depending on the day or what I'm doing.
I love what you just said about what makes you feel connected and in the present moment. And I think it's just, take a cue out of Huti's playbook here right now is when you're feeling outside of the present. Like sometimes I feel like I'm a bit floating. I'm not always as grounded as I maybe should be. I'm a little bit more kind of like upper chakra. And then Dr. Stacey Shellington, a friend of mine, naturopath from Ontario, she's like, she has to make herself get out of her lower third chakras. It's going to be so different for everybody. What is it like for you? Where do you feel like you kind of reside the most in your body systems?
I'm definitely be floaty, very, very floaty. I've been doing a lot of work on my solar plexus in the last year, and some very real things are happening in that area and unblocking. Heart space is where I focus on at the moment because it's where I'm really wanting that openness and expandedness. I can totally get in my head, and what happens for me, get too much in my head. Like, I don't mean like energetically, like ending, but actually in my head, is my body will pull me back in with some sort of dizziness. And I'll just be like, whoa, what's happening? And then I'll be in my body. So listening to your body is super important because it will tell you what you need to do, where you need to go. But a lot of it is so disconnected from our actual body and the messages that it's trying to tell us. Heart is definitely my focus at the moment, and the solar plexus is big for anyone who's working on self-belief and self-worth and confidence and trust. That's the place right below your heart. That is where, when you can unblock that, then everything else, the channel kind of opens up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When I record, I actually have my art crystal more kind of in the heart space. And then when I'm kind of like off grid days, just hanging out home, I actually have it more over the solar plexus. And I didn't really think about that until now. And the arc pendant's made by a pretty famous physicist, Nassim Haramein. And yes, I am working to manifest having him on the show. So stay tuned for that one. We had a gentleman tune in here. George said, you both sound like you're in love with Michael Tellinger.
Wow.
So I thought that was really sweet. And Taylor says how she gets into you have like some beautiful light reflecting actually on your throat. And you're speaking right now. That's cool.
Yeah.
So Taylor says collecting roses, making natural perfume is one of the many aspects for her that helps and with her feminine, and then watching the Philadelphia Flyers and all of that brings her into the masculine. It's really cute. And it's really going to be different for everybody. So don't judge yourself when you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of like different, but am I still the same person? Like enjoy these types of attributes. It's just kind of more this collection of different emotions, feelings that really make up the beautiful human that you are. Do you have any closing remarks for today's call, Huti?
I think my key takeaway is trust. I think a lot of us lack trust in ourselves and lack trust in the universe or whatever you believe we are a part of. Because when we don't trust, that's when we worry and we get concerned and we block, right? Whatever anyone needs to do to build trust in themselves, whether it's working with a coach or a mentor, the environment that's around you. We know with biohacking, what we can do to try and limit toxins. If you think about all of these things, are they serving us or are they pulling away from us? Are we being more of who we are, or are we being less of who we are? And I believe what I do with my clients is really help them just become more of who they are by taking away those blocks, not changing anything, not delete anything, not getting rid of the shadows. It's actually shining a light on your shadow and loving it, because it's part of who you are, and the acceptance this is super key as well, I think.
As you literally have light shining on your throat while you're speaking.
Love
I,
it.
I love this stuff. Sometimes you just have to notice these kind of nuances as they come into your and synchronicities and all that cool stuff. It kind of makes life a little bit interesting. I just wanted to kind of end on this note, like how to be confident in our own skin. Everyone's dealing with different insecurities, right? My insecurities growing up was my crazy frizzy hair. I would get made fun of so much for my hair, literally to the effect of a young boy asking me if I stuck my finger in a light bulb socket, or another young boy calling me the ugliest girl in the world. Now, do you think that I let that get to me long term? I did not. But in that moment, that was really difficult for me. So people will say unkind things to us sometimes, like, oh, you look tired. But really, when you hear people maybe saying things like that to you or others, it's really just a reflection of how poorly they're actually really thinking about themselves. And I just want to encourage all of you to reach out if you have questions for ways to optimize your skin. Huti, we've worked together for quite a while now to help you become confident in your skin and focus on your skin health. And how has that really helped you become more confident in your skin just by simply learning how to look after it?
It's been massive for me, Rach. It really, really has, because like I said, I had acne when I was younger. I thought I was ugly. So I've spent so much money trying to make myself feel beautiful. And like this whole talk that we're talking about today about emotions, I was trying to do external things to make me feel a certain way in here. So it absolutely starts within. Saying that, um, I've spent a lot of money on skincare. And what I love about the regime that you have me on is it's so simple, it's easy. And what the best part about it is, it actually is just showing me like how I really feel. It's showing me using the exfoliant, using the mask that I use, using the dermal roller. It's literally just me. And I find myself lately not really wanting to wear makeup as much. Like before, I'd want to wear it all the time, and now often I don't wear it, and my skin is glowing. It's got that like glass kind of quality to it, and it's me. Like before, I help my clients become more of who they are. I genuinely feel like the regime you have me on is just showing me. There's no bells or whistles or anything. It's just my skin. And I love it. Like I'm turning 40 next year, and I often get comments saying people think I'm in my 20s. I live a good lifestyle. I eat really well. I take care of myself. I do the inner work. But the best thing about the regime is it's easy. It's not hard. And there's no bells or whistles, and we can get caught up. I definitely have in the past with beauty products that have all of these claims and all of these different things, and it takes away from who we are as people. Like it really does. So that's what I love the most about it, is my skin's never looked better, and it's just showing me.
It's
That's
been
cool.
really beautiful actually to kind of witness your evolution as a coach for those who want to learn how to start manifesting and unblocking their emotions, but like really feeling in their emotions. And I love seeing that confidence development in you and your speech development. You're just a gorgeous, eloquent speaker now. And just listening to you, I've just been in such a relaxed space. And before this, I was actually at Upgrade Labs and, doing some cool biohacking stuff. I did the squeeze, I did the atmospheric cell trainer, the nano V, the vibe plate. So I'm in like a really beautiful, relaxed state. And I just received what you were saying today. And I'm so grateful for everything that you shared on today's call. And we had a lot of feedback and interaction in the comment section. So I know this landed on a number of people. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've loved being part of it. Yeah, and you can see there, Huti Bourke handle on Instagram and Facebook. I've got a few programs coming out I'm doing next week, which is completely free. And it's about uncovering those shadows, which I'm so excited. It starts tomorrow, actually. So for anyone who's interested or wants to connect with me, feel free. I love connecting with people. I've got a client in Canada, actually. I think she lives a little bit far away from you, though. But yeah, I've loved today's call, and it's just, I love how things just work out the way they're supposed to.
And yeah, thanks everyone who tuned in live here on the live recording of the Rachel Varga podcast on the Rachel Varga official Facebook page, YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell. As always, start and begin each call with a little bell sound. I love this sound. I don't know about y'all, but this is like my jam. Sound just really kind of like pulls me in. It opens things, it closes things. And I'm so grateful for everybody tuning into the show here and sharing your love, support, kind words. And thank you, Huti, for being back on here. Good luck with your future endeavors. Keep me posted. Don't forget to email me any questions you have about your skin health at info@rachelvarga.ca. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Bye.